right.
Okay,
One
so
tardy for Leah.
I will add Leah to the mix, and then President Naylor just asked for public comment. There is no public comment, so I'm going to assume you guys are going into closed session now at 7:03. My computer said.
Correct.
I have 7:04.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. We'll see ya. It is 7:30 by my clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. We've already done a roll call at the open session prior to closed session. Board went into closed session at 7:02, emerged at 7:23, no reportable actions. The negotiator did receive instruction from the board. Okay. Open session agenda. Let's see. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this month's meeting, and I will read the usual rules. This will be a virtual meeting of the Marinwood CSD Board of Directors pursuant to Executive Order N2920, issued by the Governor of the State of California. There will not be a public location for participating in this meeting. Any interested member of the public can participate telephonically or via internet by utilizing the web link or dial-in information that is printed on this agenda. At points in the meeting, when the meeting chair requests public comment, members of the public participating in the live meeting, either via internet or telephone, shall indicate their desire to speak. If participating via internet, please click on the raise hand feature located within the Zoom application screen. If connected via telephone, please dial *9. Okay. I'd like to ask the board if there are any changes or deletions from tonight's agenda.
I would like to add something, if it's possible.
I think you can delete and you can change the order, but I'm not sure you can add anything.
It would
Okay.
have to be an emergency something.
Well, because there's nothing on the agenda about voting new officers.
Well, I can cover that really quickly. That doesn't happen until the December meeting.
Okay.
And it's good that you bring this up, Bill, because you are the current vice president. And since our current president will no longer be part of the board for the next meeting, guess who gets to chair the next meeting?
Lovely.
Yep, the vice
Thank
president.
you. That's what I was curious about.
Yep. Yeah,
I couldn't
it's you.
remember all these years that I've been on the board when this happens.
It happens in December in accordance with the bylaws.
Okay.
So it'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other board members have any changes or deletions from tonight's agenda?
Jeff, if I could just point out, as was graciously pointed out to me, I have a little bit of a numbering error in the agenda where it goes from A, B, C, D, and then back to C, and then jumps to E. So the numbering is a little off, but I think we know where we're at.
I'm following the numbering as presented.
Great.
We've mastered the alphabet by now, I think, so we'll be good.
Obviously, I haven't, so I apologize for any confusion.
Okay. All right, if there are no changes to tonight's agenda, I will move that or I will say that it is adopted as presented. And we will move to item C2, consent calendar. Does anyone on the board have any questions about the meeting minutes of the October 13th or the closed or special November 5th meeting or the bills paid?
Nope.
Leah, you're not shaking your head. I guess nobody on the board has any questions about any of those.
I do not.
Okay, I've asked several of the district manager and I have received my answers and I'm totally satisfied with what I saw. So,
I'd like to move to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
okay, so we have a motion from Director Perry and a second from Director Oysterman to adopt the consent calendar as presented. Do I have any comment from the public?
1 second.
Yes, Stephen.
Yes, actually, this is an aside. When doing these virtual meetings, I sure would like to know that you can hear me before the meeting starts, and I would recommend that you basically engage the public prior to the meeting, so time doesn't have to be taken up just to verify the sound. As you know, things happen and sometimes the audio doesn't work. Now, yes, I do have some questions on the consent calendar. I was noticing, you know, some of the bills like the after school sports group seemed to get a pretty good check from us. I know that there's a lot of programs being done. And I'm just wondering, does the staff that we have on salary, do they teach classes too? Or are we basically contracting out most of the rec programs? Luke, I guess that would be Luke or Eric.
We are contracting out most of the programs. Our staff is too small to be conducting numerous classes that can to be expected by members of our community.
Okay. Well, and you know, once again, we see the money going out. We don't see what the revenue coming in is, and so it's you know, for these programs. So it's really hard to evaluate.
We are voting
financial-
currently on bills paid, so you would not see revenues. On the bills
I'm sorry.
paid.
I believe I was talking, Isabella. Do you mind? I'm just trying to understand what is happening with the cash flow of the district, and it's really, it's very opaque. We see a lot of expenses. Another expense that caught my notice was another architecture firm, a residential architecture firm that has a sizable check going to it, and of course, Irv Schwartz's engineering firm got a nice check as well. You know, three of you guys are finishing up your terms tonight, and you know, the legacy of transparency has been very poor. Hopefully, as taxpayers, you'll take a different view of these things, but and I know your heart's in the right place. You want the best for the district, but it's really hard to understand what's going on with the district when you don't, you know, basically divulge budgets and expenses. So that's all I have to say at this moment.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Does anyone else from the public have a comment?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Does anyone on the board have any further questions or comments on the consent calendar items? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve and a second. Tiffany, would you like to take the roll call?
Sure. Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Aye.
There you go. Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
and Director Shea.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, board members. Okay, we'll move on to item E now, public comment, open time for items not on the agenda.
1 second.
Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
So I guess we can talk about this later, but the first thing I wanted to do is thank you guys who are leaving for your service. You know, the legacy that you leave behind is, you know, you've got some good things going. We still have a terrible problem with transparency in the district, and the needs of the full community are not being met. The disabled do not, or mobility impaired people really do not have safe access in our park, and that's because you've ignored requests for basic functional improvements to access our park, park benches, fountains that don't work. You know, I attend these meetings, and you know, there's a lot of happy talk and, you know, participation trophies given for our employees to show up to work, but very little accountability on some pretty important stuff, not only financial accountability, but also, you know, the quality and the amount of work being done in our parks and our efficiency in meeting those objectives. You know, the maintenance in the parks has suffered, and our uses of the park and open space has increased. So I guess part of this is let's look forward to the future and see how we can do things better. Did you mute me? No? Hello?
We hear you.
We hear you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate your comments. I don't necessarily agree with most of it. I think that given our staff levels and the situation we found ourselves in this year, all staff is doing an admirable job. But thank you for your comments. 7:42. Okay, we move to item F, District Matters. And item F1 is the fiscal year 2020-2021 first quarter profit P&L and variance report. Eric, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jeff. Well, I gave you guys a bit of a lead-in memo there with the staff report, just kind of painting the current picture. Again, this is a profit and loss, so it's just simply a look at first quarter performance on revenues and expenditures versus budgeted. So this is not, you know, looking at a balance sheet, although I do include some general balance sheet information within the note there too. A couple of the things, you know, obviously to highlight the cost drivers as always, especially this time of year, our staff wages and benefits, our annual insurance payments and our pension payment in regards to our unfunded accrued liability that we pay in a lump sum amount at the beginning of the year. Again, that's, you know, it was $407,000 this year, but paying it in a lump sum at the beginning of the year saves us a little over $14,000 in annual interest payments if we pay it monthly. And we're in a cash position, fortunately, to be able to pay it up front, so that is a wise financial decision. 1 month into quarter two, so as of October 31st, we had a cash balance in our general fund of approximately $2.51 million. This is approximately $380,000 higher than it was at the same point in time last year, which is something that, as staff, we feel pretty good about, given the fact that we had a lot of the program reductions in staffing, revenue reductions, but also flipped on the other side with a lot of expense reductions too. So we're still are able to manage to operate at a level where revenue has been exceeding expense, especially considering, 8 months of that time was a very irregular period. Regarding capital, the district currently has 300,000 of the above stated 2.5 million designated as capital reserves. This is derived from 100,000 in designations that occurred each of the past 3 years. And right now we are on track to deposit another or to designate another 100,000 at the close of this fiscal year into that. And then additionally, as of September 30th, our OPEB trust fund had a balance of $313,503 in it. And I added some information there. For Q2, we anticipate approximately 55% of property taxes and special assessments will be recognized and allocated to our Treasury fund. And we will also, at some point in Q2, I believe, should be receiving the first installment of our direct funding allocations, excuse me, from the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, which they also anticipate, kind of following the same general track as secured property taxes with 55% in December, followed typically by about 40% around April, and then the last 5% usually right towards the end of the fiscal year. Otherwise, if there are any questions on this, I did include some variance reports at the end. I will say that nothing in here as we went through and really kind of looked at all of this was shocking. It all kind of fell in line with where we expected it, or I should say with where we hoped it would fall in line, and in some cases even exceeding our estimates from a revenue side too. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Would anyone from the board like to ask questions of Eric on the variance report?
I don't have questions. I just wanted to thank you for the exhaustive introduction and the explanation at the end. It really saves so much time for us with potential questions to just flip a couple of pages and have all the answers provided. So immensely helpful. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
And I wanted to thank you for doing the various iterations so that we knew the different ways that this could fall, so that none of this was a surprise for us. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Leah, Bill, any comment?
Good work so far.
I agree, absolutely. No, I found these to be very informative. Of course, we all understand the periodicity of receiving revenue from government revenue and fee revenue. So this quarter will look, or next quarter will look a lot different than this quarter does when you look at a full-blown P&L. But it looks like we're tracking fairly well on what has been budgeted, and Eric's pointed out some of the variances to the original assumptions. But particularly considering increasing the cash balance during this period is
phenomenal,
very heartening. So great work by everyone to make that happen.
And I just wanted to throw in another comment that this would be the place for the public to gauge the financial performance of the district, comparing performance versus the budget, and not necessarily from the bills paid. We have included this presentation a number of times, but it seems like it might be difficult to understand for some.
Yeah, and this is done on a quarterly basis, so rather than a monthly basis, and that's one thing we have to keep in mind. So keeping a copy of this, to sort of follow along or recall where we were at a particular point in time with the end of each quarter is probably useful information. But again, this next quarter, you're going to see revenue dollars start to flow in, and from an income statement standpoint, you'll start to see a much rosier picture than was presented at the end of the first quarter of the calendar year, or of the fiscal year, sorry. Okay, anything else from the board? Okay, questions from the public?
1 second.
The first
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, first thing I'd like to say is thank you for assembling this report. It does add a little bit of clarity to it, but I want to know, and it says really good things about the district, big picture. And the good things about the district is we have pretty good cash flow, stable income, and our businesses are pretty good. What it doesn't say, or what it also says, is that we don't have adequate control of our expenses. And as you know, there's been a whole lot of expenses going out, and it seems like it always happens, that we do make some gains in our financial position, but not nearly as good as we could do, because we don't really we don't do the things that successful businesses and successful government agencies do to manage our expenses. What do I mean by that? Well, we knew that this whole pandemic was going to put a big monkey wrench in our financial condition this year. I remember at the March meeting where we were discussing the budget for the year, and I said, hey, look, there's a hurricane coming, and let's batten down the hatches. Let's make some adjustments. And there were some adjustments, of course. We cut programs, but we didn't think about ways that we could either reduce staff or do things a little bit more efficiently. Instead, the expenses continued on without really access to the facilities that we pay for as taxpayers. So as you're looking at this as a big success, I look at these expenses and I go, well, gosh, what did we get this year? We didn't get much. We didn't get much from our investment in staffing, for example. And while other agencies did do some, did use this as an opportunity to streamline operations, we didn't. And so we're pretty much doing things as we've always done them. It's very disturbing to me that when I talked to the general manager about the cost of the project in the park, he says, well, we don't know because we haven't spent the money yet, which is a BS answer. And I don't know if you guys are getting the same answer from him, but if you are, I'll tell you, we're flying blind here with our expenses. We're about ready to take a huge hit, and our revenues are down. We're down $1.5 million in just 3 months. It's going to take a long time to get our coffers filled properly and get back on track. So I guess a boring bill, but that's kind of typical. Anyhow, this is your legacy, guys, and I know you're all experienced business people. I can't imagine that your individual businesses are run without more supervision than the supervision that we have in play in the district. And I guess that's something that I'd like you to communicate to the incoming board, the opportunities for improving the district.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Jeff, may I state something for the record? We have not lost $1.5 million. It's, I guess, again, it's difficult to understand the cash flow in government agencies. The concept of the tax revenue arriving in our coffers only twice a year at specific time, every year at the same time, that kind of impacts how the numbers look currently.
Thank you, Isabella. Restating what I tried to state earlier, but again, any other comments from the board? Eric, thank you for a job well done in getting the variance report out,
You're welcome.
and to all of the staff for the efforts to align expenses with forecast revenues, which frankly, if it hadn't been done, we wouldn't be seeing increases in cash surpluses, which, by the way, could be used to allocate over to a revenue line until we actually received the fees from the government and make it look like it should at the end of the second quarter. But that's just a bookkeeping issue, and it's not something that's really worth staff's time to do. I think understanding that from a cash flow standpoint, we're a cash accounting organization. We are not an accrual accounting organization. So we recognize those revenues when they're received, and they won't be received until the end of this calendar year. Okay, let's move on. Item F2 is Resolution 2020-07, fixing the employer contribution for employees and annuitants under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act. Eric, would you like to lead us off?
Sure. Again, I encourage you to reference the staff report that I included, but every year CalPERS reviews. CalPERS is our health carrier through the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act. Every year they review their rates, often resulting in adjustments. As noted in here, for the last 2 years, actually the rates were flat for our region. This year they went up approximately 5.5%. This is budgeted and planned for within the budget. The district has longstanding policies of paying set percentages of the healthcare premium for employers based on classification, and this resolution changes the amounts that the district pays for employee health care in accordance with the rate difference, and it needs to be submitted to CalPERS, and it will become effective with the month of January.
Questions from the board?
This is a housekeeping item, more or less.
It is.
More or less. We have to submit a formal resolution to CalPERS to change the employer contribution. Our contributions are a set and stated percentage of the Kaiser premium for CalPERS. They offer several different medical plans. The Kaiser one tends to be one of the more affordable ones, and it is also the one that is chosen that we match a set percentage of their rate. So this year, the set percentages that the district will pay is what's stated in the resolution itself.
Okay.
And so
Right.
I'd like to move to approve the resolution 2020-07, fixing the employer contribution for employees and annuitants under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Perry, sorry, and a second from Director Oyserman. Any further conversation? I'd just like to say that I think Eric pointed that out in the write-up. The reason that this might not be too familiar is I think we've skipped at least 1 and possibly 2 years because the rates didn't change, but they have now.
Yeah,
So-
we did not do this last year. The rate stayed flat. CalPERS used to have, I think, 5 or 6 regions that they based rates on. The Bay Area region used to be one of their regions, and it was actually the most expensive region in the state. And just based on the cost of healthcare here, they have since forth moved to 3 regions. We are now what is in the Northern California region, and last year they brought up all of the other areas that make up the now Northern California region to the Bay Area rates. Our rates actually stayed flat last year, but this year they will be going up by about 5.5%. The year before, like 2 years ago, I think they actually went down maybe 1%.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's nothing else from the board on this particular topic, let's open it up to the public.
1 second.
Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to just come out and say it. We have too many full-time employees employed by the district. It's just these expenses are what's going to kill us. These healthcare expenses, these retirement expenses, and we just can't afford to have too many full-time employees. Some of the positions, because they are seasonal in nature, should be seasonal jobs. And I just think that the boards, not just your board, but over the years, we've grown and grown and grown, and we've added full-time employees where they're not really critical towards our mission. So I guess you're going to vote on this, of course, approve it, but I think this is one of the areas that really needs to be looked at.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Jeff, may I just state for the record that over the last years, we have actually lowered the number of full-time staff, and we have not added any full-time positions.
Yes, we've reduced full-time staff count by at least 2 and possibly 3 by virtue of some layoffs in the park department, by virtue of the fact that we no longer have our own full-time employed fire chief. And we've also, if I recall, 4 or 5 years ago, we combined a director position that used to be 2 people. So yes, our employee count has diminished over the last 4 to 5 years. Thanks, Isabella.
Jeff,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
if you want clarity on it, we have 18 full-time employees, 9 of which are firefighters, 4 of which are in the rec department, including Luke, who actually serves as the park and the rec director in a de facto role, 3 park maintenance staff, to your point, that used to be 5, and then you have 2 admin staff for the entire agency.
Right. And thank you for pointing that out. I did forget one thing. We eliminated the relief firefighter position as well.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you. Appreciate that. There's no further discussion. Tiffany, could you?
Sure will. Board
Cool.
President Naylor.
Aye.
Director Green.
Aye.
Director Oysterman.
Aye.
Director Perry.
Aye.
And Director Shea.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was 4 ayes and 1 yes. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Item F3, the district manager's report. Eric?
Sure. Well, this month, as you saw, I felt personally that the 3 outgoing directors, being Director Naylor, Director Perry, and Director Green, needed to be acknowledged. You've been in your positions now for 5 years. Many of you have served in other roles, previous on commissions, or in other terms on the board, as well as commissions. So it's been quite a 5 years. It seems very short, and in some ways it seems very long. And I'm sure to the 3 of you, it seems much longer than it does to me. But I felt I wanted to take a second. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to take a second and reflect. And you can see a list that is far from inclusive of some of the things that this district has accomplished under your governance in the past 5 years. Primarily looking at a lot of the very critical policies that have either been created or revised, the update and adoption of a long overdue policies and procedures employee handbook, formal bylaws, the things like behind the scenes help with our district website that is far improved over where that used to be. The financial oversight that has resulted in, you know, what I would consider to be the most stable financial position the district has ever been in. The creation of the OPEB trust, the very transparent and thorough analysis of our long-term pension liabilities. The list really does go on, and it really is a sample of it. And, you know, for your final meeting, I really wanted to give you the proper acknowledgement. And I know I don't need to remind you, but it's a thankless role that you all play, but I am saying thank you, and you do it for free, and you do it, you know, strictly as volunteers who want to have a positive impact on their community. And I can tell you that I'm excited about our incoming board members, but you three will certainly be missed by me personally, as well as by the impact you had on the community. So thank you all very much for all of your service, and I'm leaving my district manager report at that for this month.
We do it for free?
Damn, I was gonna go spend all my earnings. Yeah. Eric, thank you very much for those kind words. Appreciate it. I'm sure my colleagues do as well. Anybody else on the board like to comment?
I'd like to say thank you very much, Board Member Green and President Naylor, for all your hard work on the board, being fabulous presidents, both of you. Jeff, for all your financial work that you've done to really bring to light the liabilities the district faces and crystallize our position, help us develop a strategy to address those biggest problems in a proactive, constructive way. You both have been role models to me for your leadership. Eric, I'd like to thank you for your tremendous work you've done over the years, and working with you was really a pleasure. Despite the fact that we might have disagreed sometimes, we were honest with one another, and that's very valuable thing to have an open line of communication. But thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Isabella.
And I just wanted to say thank you also for the concurrence. It's been a pleasure to serve with everybody, and yeah, like I say, we all, I think, kind of rotate in and out of these various service positions. So I'm not going far, but I am grateful for the time I've spent here and everything I've learned. I keep learning. So yeah, I feel like we're leaving it in good hands, and I'm glad that we have gotten some things done along the way. So thank you all.
You bet. Thanks. Yeah, I'll just close by saying once again, what a interesting experience this has been. And and I do, you know, it was good of Eric to write down some of the accomplishments, just because I think we all have a tendency over a 5-year period to sort of move forward and not look back. So yeah, it's very clear that there were some steps forward during the 5 years that we were on the board. In particular, the policies and procedures that Isabella was so front and center with is a huge undertaking, and has definitely set up the district for a cleaner and better managed future. So thank you. And Leah, what can I say? You were wherever you needed to be for this district, and I really appreciate your counsel. You've been a terrific sounding board, and I appreciate your leadership as well. And
I just wanted to say thank you to all three of you. You leave some really big shoes to fill, and I am in awe of everything that you guys have done for the district, the amount of hours and time, and looking into the nitty gritty and making sure that things are clear and concise. And I just thank you, and hopefully the next 2 years on my watch, I can make you guys proud.
thank you, Siobhan.
Not that they're going to pay a lick of attention to what happens with this board the day this meeting ends, but you know.
You're making me weepy.
Oh, well. Okay. Any comment from the public?
Yeah, 1 second.
This should be good.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi, Bill.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Isabella. And thank you, Leah. I think I would agree. I think that you did do some, definitely improve the district. And I appreciate all the positive things that you have brought to the district. I don't really think this is time to talk about things that I feel lacking in the district. I do that pretty regularly. And as a side note, when I do that and I'm talking, if you need to engage me or, you know, basically argue with the points that I bring up, I would appreciate to keep me in the conversation so we can actually come to some common understanding. All three of you are now, you know, citizens, I guess. Hopefully you'll stay involved and maybe we'll see each other out on the trails or in the park. I hope to get to know you a little better and maybe reset our relationship. But what I know of you in this limited capacity so far, I do know that your people, each one of you have good hearts, and you definitely have a passion for the community, which I also share. And I just hope that we can continue to grow as a community. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate your words. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to item G, Fire Department matters. First, the draft minutes of the November 3rd Fire Commission meeting. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
Should we talk about the radios or Eric?
That'll be, I believe, is in part of the chief's report.
Okay. So then I won't mention that.
Too late. Okay. Any comments again from the board on the meeting minutes? Okay. Comments from the public?
No.
Okay. We'll move on. Item G2, appointment of fire commissioners for the term beginning January 1st, 2021.
Sure. Last month, there was notices that were put out. It went out via social media, via our website, postings on the bulletin boards, as well as, you know, some word of mouth that went out. Based on that, as you can see, we have 3 regular commission seats. They can be appointed for 2-year terms. We have 1 vacant alternate commissioner seat that's been vacant for the past year, with a term expiring at the end of December 2021. At this point in time, there's 2 members of the community. Both are current commissioners who have submitted a request to be reappointed. They are Tom Ellsbury and Stephen Farrack. Their letters are included in this packet. Staff recommendation is to appoint both Mr. Ellsbury and Mr. Farrack for additional 2-year terms.
I would like to move to appoint Commissioner Ellsbury and Commissioner Farrack to 2-year terms, respectively.
I'll second it because Isabel beat me to.
Okay. All right. If I understand it properly, these 2 reappointments will leave 1 regular position and 1 alternate position open. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, fair enough. The only other comment I have to make is, I think to Tom Ellsbury was on the fire commission before I got there. So his comment about having served on the fire commission for several years
Several,
made me laugh. I would say several decades maybe, but several years.
at least two.
But anyway.
Well, in Tom's defense, he's a very participatory commissioner.
Yes, yes, indeed. So I'd like to thank them both for their service, and you know, I'm certainly happy to have them return.
Yeah, and then Jeff, to clarify, there has been a vacant regular position now for a while, ever since Russ Albano voluntarily resigned from the commission. So we don't have any commissioners who are coming off at this point in time who have not requested to be reappointed.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, is there any further comment from the board? From the public?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, the lack of applications for these commissions should tell the board something. The outreach to the public is insufficient, even though you know, put it on Nextdoor and wherever. We really need to be announcing our meetings so people know what is going on. These are important positions, actually. They're spending, you know, much of our budget, the fire commission is, and, you know, gosh, and you guys are just interesting people. It's very frustrating that there's so little participation in the community with our community affairs. I would like not to be the only person talking to you about concerns from the public, but I guess, you know, so that's really all I need to say. But I'd like to see, you know, us get out from just reappointing the same clique of, you know, people from the same group of people. I think that's an outreach issue that really does need to be addressed.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay. We'll move on to item G3, Chief Officer Report and Activity.
Jeff,
Summary. Yeah,
I think we need a motion and a vote to actually appoint these people.
we do?
Yeah, it's funny that way.
I didn't think we voted on that. We just simply accepted their appointments. No? Okay.
I think we've always voted on it in the past.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't put that down as a voting thing, but all right, fair enough. Okay, Tiffany.
Yes, sir. President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green. Leah, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Oysterman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
and Director Shea. Bill, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
You're muted. You're muted, Bill.
There's a reason for that. Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, we had all ayes that time. Excellent. Formative. Okay. Sorry for that snafu. I thought a point was a point, not vote. But, you know, just in time, I've learned that lesson. All right. Item G3, Chief Officer Report and Activity Summary. Chief?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm sorry. I had to connect from my cell phone. I ran into some difficulty with my laptop, so just wanted to make sure I could be heard fairly easily right now. Good evening, Board of Directors and District Manager Drykosen and the community members who joined us today. I'm happy to report on this month's activities of sorts, starting with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. As planned and discussed previously, the NCCC and AmeriCorps crews both arrived on October 29th. We have a total of 17 individuals who are now out working within the communities, working in our open spaces, and at some point here in the very near future, providing direct assistance to homeowners who are in need of assistance with their vegetation management and or fuel reduction projects in their homes. On my report, I actually provided 2 links. One is an email address, the other is a link. That's www.cityofsanrafael.org/wildfire-prevention-assistance/. And that helps you reach out and obtain some of the assistance information about the assistance that you can receive. And then there's the need to email specifically our vegetation management staff at srfd.dspace@cityofsanrafael.org. And so for anyone that you know of that could benefit from some assistance from some very enthusiastic, hardworking young adults, this would be the time to do it. I'm happy to say also, it looks like we'll have a 3rd crew joining us in December. This is huge. I got to tell you, I haven't seen this in very many other communities. And so for us to be able to get almost season round assistance from these volunteer crews at minimal expense is just very encouraging. And I'm hoping that this program can expand. And who knows, at some point we might be able to get it almost year round if they continue to get the number of volunteers and have the capacity to assist us with our needs here in Marinwood and Marin County in general. Moving on, Director Mark Brown, last Tuesday, the election day, took a group of a couple of dozen individuals to Santa Rosa. These individuals are DSpace inspectors, vegetation management specialists, wildfire mitigation specialists, and others to perform a walkthrough of some of the neighborhoods in Santa Rosa that were immediately impacted by some of the recent fires. And if you look at the photo that I included on page 1 of the report, I wish I could have dialed in a little bit tighter, but there's 2 or 3 homes in the photo that were devastated by fire, while the rest of the homes remain virtually untouched or just barely singed, based on the fact that they had done substantial home hardening in those areas. And so even if you look at some of the burn areas, you can see where vegetation that was cleared was literally untouched. It's not discolored, but you can see the dark brown or black areas where fire had burned through. But all in all, this was a great example of some hardening in neighborhoods where this effort was taken very seriously, and as a result, those that community or those communities had minimal impact from fire. And so I think Director Brown from the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority really recognized early on this might be a great chance for folks to get video and photographs to bring back to their communities and share how those measures can really make a difference when you face an actual catastrophic event like our communities seem to keep facing over the last few years here. So with that, I encourage everybody to continue to do their due diligence and work hard to keep their property safe on a year-round basis and harden outward from your property as far out as you possibly can, starting right at the house. The further away you can keep your vegetation to a minimum, the less likely you'll have something encroach directly on your home. That being said, next page, there's a snapshot of the AmeriCorps crew from St. Louis. These folks are here for 2 months, and the first week or 2 they've spent so far in the San Pedro Scatrini Fire Road area. And speaking to Sean Rule, I think they've got some plans for Marinwood here in the very near future. And it's probably either going to come right after the Thanksgiving break or just before, but I've got to get confirmation on that. I'm going to move on to COVID and guidelines. A couple of weeks ago, the governor's office moved Marin County from the red to the orange tier. And this is very concerning to me for a number of reasons. It looked like at one point we were getting close to being moved or qualified to move into even the yellow status or the yellow tier. And what enables you to actually reach another lower tier is meeting certain thresholds and criteria for a 3-week period. I think depending on who you talk to, some folks feel that we're still closer to the red tier as opposed to moving closer to the yellow tier. And so, and I'm speaking of emergency management staff in the county and in the city of San Rafael and others. So my concern is maybe a little premature, but it's also tempered with the idea that we already have a lot of indoor activity already taking place. And as we're starting to see in the state of California and slightly here in Marin County, there's an increase in COVID cases being reported. And so It's pretty clear across the country where we're starting to reach peaks that we haven't even seen before during the last 8 months. Maybe some spaces are moving forward too quickly, or somehow or another folks are not doing their due diligence with hand washing, social distancing, and using their mask. And so with that, there's still some indoor activities capable, and I think as long as those businesses and individuals frequenting those businesses continue to do social distancing and be responsible, we may not see an increase in our county. I think our county at some point may actually turn out to be the model for others based on the fact that we don't have as much or the same level of increase as others. But with that, I'm going to say also that I believe that there could be something coming forward in January from a national standpoint that may give guidance to each state as a national COVID guidance that may change some of what we're doing at the local level. So we'll know more in the next several weeks about that. But for right now, it looks like we're holding steady in the orange tier and not moving towards yellow or moving up back towards red, depending on how things play out over the next several weeks. Ironically, there's some reopening of some government services slated for this Thursday, such as in San Rafael City Hall and other parts of the community there. They're looking at having a presence back indoors in some of the facilities and government services that were primarily handled from a remote standpoint. So I have more information on that towards the end of the week, and I'll be sure to share that as I need to about the reopening and or the degree to which the reopening is taking place.
Can I ask a follow-up question before you move on about this?
Sure.
So with Newsom saying that he's going to make it more stringent and stuff, and that some counties may be falling backwards, we have not fallen backwards. Okay.
Right. No, we've not fallen backwards. And I think for the first couple of weeks, I really thought we were moving towards the yellow tier because we had met the criteria to be able to move forward. I think that third week may have been a critical slight adjustment that kept us from being qualified to move into the yellow tier. And that's just based on information that I had gleaned from a couple of different sources. But again, some of the experts and folks who have more background and experience in this tend to feel that we're not as close to the yellow tier as I may have feared. We're closer probably to the red tier than to the yellow tier. And so fortunately for us right now, it looks like we're going to hold steady where we are. That could change though, depending on any number of things that happen in the next few weeks. But I think the governor is taking a strong approach, as are some of the other mayors in other communities. Based San Francisco as an example, I think they started to scale back some of their opening, and given the increase in infections, given the increase, or should I say the lack of a vaccine right now, I think that makes sense. I always had my concerns about premature reopening of schools as an example, and those fears still exist for me. And I think those concerns exist also with the teachers and some of the faculty who are concerned about how maybe individual students or families are taking, how should we say, the precautions seriously or not taking those precautions seriously. So in the meantime, to just not find yourself in a predicament. Like I just saw on the news earlier, I think it was Branson School, and I'm not sure which community it was in. They may have had some sort of Halloween party, and as a result, COVID infections started, and they had to go back to online learning at that school just as a result of one party. So again, maybe a little premature, even though everyone's getting stir crazy at home. You still have to approach this from a very cautious perspective. So National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Funding from the Marin Wildfire Prevention and Protection Authority, was used to purchase about 1,000 Midland WR120 NOAA radios. And these weather radios are for a pilot program that's going to be launched to test the effectiveness of radios as a backup warning system here in Marin County. And so with that, we have Alert Marin, we have Nixle, we have Everbridge. But if for any reason those systems went down because of cell towers not operating or public safety power shutdowns or other reasons, we really would kind of have some challenges now making emergency alerts and wireless emergency alerts especially. So I'm really excited to see that the old school technology is actually a very functioning and very reliable technology in that these radios don't require you to have a power source, and they can be used in the middle of the night to wake individuals up very reliably, from what I understand, provided you leave the radios on. With that, though, the NOAA understands clearly that they don't want to just make any basic announcement about a red flag warning or some other watch or other condition which isn't a real pending, serious, mission critical emergency that they need to communicate to everyone. Otherwise, people will get to a point where they kind of feel it's diluted. It doesn't have the same importance that it should have. They'll turn the radios off, and then at the worst possible time, when they really need the messaging, they're not going to be able to receive it. So with that, there were roughly, I think, 200 plus for San Rafael and Marinwood. And I think Marinwood received somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 or 17 radios. We're really encouraging individuals who are leaders of Firewise communities to consider taking on the responsibility for a radio. But also, I think there's been some discussion about the board of directors and others who are in leadership roles also testing out the radios and getting access to the radios. And the hope is at some point down the road, we'll be able to acquire more radios and distribute them on a more widespread basis. But from what I understand, they're not very expensive. They may cost somewhere in the $25 to $35 range. But again, being that the MWPA has some radios, we're looking to distribute those radios to folks that may be interested. And I know there's going to be some folks that say thank you, but no thank you. But perhaps there'll be others that will look at this as a valuable resource that they want to actually put in their home and use it to receive information if and when something were to happen.
And Chief White, Eric is holding it up, so if people want to know what it looks like, there it is.
Oh, okay. I can't see that. All I can see is you right now. I can't see anybody else. All right.
I put it up right here, Chief.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah, so you can see it. And before you move on, if you don't mind, jump in here really quick.
Yes.
We did receive 16. This has been a topic that the Fire Commission has been talking about for quite a while, these very specific radios. When I was originally contacted by Firewise, to Chief White's point, they were very enthusiastic about the idea of distributing them to our commissioners. This is a pilot project, excuse me. So, you know, names and contact information will be distributed back to Firewise. There'll be follow-up requests for information and feedback on effectiveness and use and things like that. So it's a bit of a research project as well. But we will circle back with the commission on how to distribute the remaining.
Thank you. Personnel, Marinwood Fire Captain Ryan Brackett submitted a request to begin a task book as a strike team leader. He had sent me an email maybe about a week or two ago. I didn't have a chance to respond directly to that. So today I took the opportunity to swing by while he was on duty and just have a one-on-one with him and the crew. I think it was a pretty good conversation. We got a chance, they had the chance to learn a little bit more about how I view the department, how I view training, some of the things that are important to me as fire chief. And so I was encouraged by the conversation. There's a couple of things I'd like to speak to Eric about a little bit offline. These are small matters, nothing that the board of directors need to really concern themselves with. But that being said, he's had nearly 20 wildfire incidents under his belt as an engine boss and trainee. And I think moving forward, it's important that we support our members who have an interest in trying to learn more and be the best possible fire service professional they can be. And so I told him, even though this position tends to be battalion chief or above, from what I understand, there are also many other agencies that are letting captains actually work as strike team leaders, from Sonoma County to even some agencies here in Marin County. And so with that, you know, I support his growth. I also established some expectations that I'd like to see surrounding his involvement as a training officer for Marinwood as well. So we'll see some definite things in the way of a training calendar moving forward for the year 2021. And those things will tie in with some of the other regional training that takes place, but I also wanted to tie in with some of the training with the first due companies that occur right within our district. So if San Rafael Engine 56 or Engine 57 respond for an incident, all three can work seamlessly and understand what they're doing, why and how, and pretty much get very familiar with one another on all three shifts so that they kind of operate like a orchestra, if you will, just playing harmoniously at an incident. So that's a separate conversation. That's more operational in nature. I just wanted you to have the understanding that you had one of your own here who are really looking to try to improve his skills and experience in a very important aspect of the fire service, wildfire.
Very good.
Election preparedness. We took it upon ourselves, well ahead of the election to start looking at how can we prepare in the event there's some unrest. And that happened based on a lot of the experience I had in Oakland with unrest, with, how should we say, parades, celebrations, you name it. We've had quite a bit of experience in Oakland. And so I recognize that Marin County hasn't always had the same challenges or issues that some of the other counties and agency I've had experience recently, but I've also noticed this year that there's probably been a slight change in some of the things that were happening in Marin County. And as a result, I mentioned it to the police chief. She seemed to be in agreement. I mentioned it to the Marin County Fire Chiefs Association. I think they saw value in it as well. And so we developed an incident action plan, and we partially activated remotely. We staged the EOC in San Rafael, but the Marin County Emergency Ops Center actually staffed up, especially on election day, for a several-hour period. And then they continued on into the second day, just as a precaution to see whether or not things were going to escalate anywhere. And fortunately, we did not see anything escalate here in the county. I know this past weekend there was some sort of protest planned over at the Golden Gate Bridge where they were going to shut down the Golden Gate Bridge for a 2-hour period. I don't know if that ever materialized. I didn't hear anything more about it. So with that, as of yesterday, the EOC has been deactivated fully, and at this point, we have really nothing more to speak to regarding the election and or any unrest. I'm really happy to see that that's the reality. The last piece, I'm sorry.
No, that's good news.
Yes. Last but not least, our times in Marinwood are now back to that same consistent number that I've seen in the past. And so I joke that either we're just creatures of habit and somehow or another we're doing things almost like robotic, or there's something happening with the system that's not capturing things so that 5 minutes, 58 seconds is not the average response time every month. There was just 1 or 2 months where we went to 5 minutes, 52 seconds, I think, or 5 minutes, 42 seconds. But right now we're at 5 minutes, 58 seconds. And don't get me wrong, that's an excellent total response time. I just have concerns when I see the same number over and over again, that there's a ghost in the system or something's not quite accurate. But that being said, really no significant incidents to report for the month of October, and I'm really happy about that. There were some fires and some other responses that we responded to as a mutual aid agency, and some of those were not really, they were unfortunate incidents. I'll just summarize it that way. But we're very fortunate not to have any negative things happen within our community this past month, and I'm gonna knock on some wood somewhere and hope that continues at least through the end of the year. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, questions from the board?
Should we mention when the whatchamacallit, the Santa's going to come through with the fire? Isn't that December 17th?
No, it's tentative
12?
right now, and they're trying to arrange to see if Santa might be able to make it into town the weekend of December 12 and 13. But there's still some logistics to work out with that, given everything going on with the public health situation. So that'll be announced if and when it is confirmed.
Okay, just want to make sure it was up.
Yeah, we don't want to see Santa wearing a mask. I mean, come on. Let's do a virtual Santa.
Weird, huh?
Anyway, yeah, I know the little kids in our neighborhood love it when they show up. Anything else from the board? Okay, comment from the public. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. Hi, Chief White. A few questions. Thanks for your report. The picture that you have of Santa Rosa, is that it's a valley and there's a well, you know what the picture is. Is that what you envision Marinwood or Lucas Valley is going to look like after you complete your vegetation management?
No, I think if you just look at that area, that's a wide open space area where there is just a complete, should I say, removal of vegetation. That's almost like a complete clear landscape. I don't expect Marinwood to look like that, not at all.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up, I know John Campo also expressed concerns. If we were to have such aggressive management, and I know you've said that you don't want to do that, there would definitely be some environmental concerns. You know, maybe this is the best way to go. I don't know, but I think it before any such project were to take place, I strongly urge the fire department to take the concerns of the public seriously, because it would definitely change the feel of the valley if we were to get very aggressive with cutting back vegetation. The other thing is, with regards to the radios, I'm a skeptic on that. I believe that sirens and bells and other simple audible signals are probably a better technical solution to rousting the public in the middle of the night, most especially people who may have impairments, or they may not plug in their radios. They certainly would hear a bell or a whistle or a horn, and I guess that's the contingency plan. If you had an emergency tonight, a wildfire tonight, I imagine you would be setting off sirens, and perhaps the sheriff would be sending patrol cars in the neighborhood, making announcements. I don't know. I'm really very skeptical at having a two-way device, government two-way device listening in my household, and I'm plus the fact I'm not even sure that it would work well in the configuration of my house. So I'm just throwing this out there. One of the problems having basically a closed fire commission is that you talk to each other, and it tends to be an echo chamber, but you really do need the public buy-in for whatever you're planning here. I have a ham radio, I have emergency radios, so I am not seeing the value in what these radios are about. But perhaps I could learn more of the advantages.
So if I could just offer one thing here.
Yeah.
Along with everything else that we're doing, it's a redundancy. I think the goal is, if one thing fails, we have other things that we can simultaneously put in play that help achieve community safety. And so as many things as you can put on the plate and manage effectively, I think it covers all bases, because the public safety power shutdown could impact our community. The fact that wireless emergency alert systems could be overwhelmed at some point, and radio traffic, or cell traffic and other information may not get through if there's a region-wide use of the system, as an example. That's a legitimate concern. And so I think the redundancy is what we're looking at here, is that if for whatever reason there's a failure in one area, we have something as a backup that works in another area that we can potentially rely on.
Okay. Well, I'm, as much as I'm into technology, I realize that it has its problems. This seems like a very technologically driven solution when a fail-safe mechanical means of communication, i.e. horns and bells and whistles and other things, to me makes so much more sense. But I don't want, we don't have to discuss.
To my knowledge, from what I understood, sorry, Chief, to interrupt, this is not just a horn or a whistle. This is going to give directions, which the horn and the whistle, when it's being sounded, you don't know where the fire is coming from and in what direction it's moving, and if you have to leave now or what the thing is. And from my understanding, these NOAA radios would give more than just an audible sound of there's fire. It would give you more information on top of that. And from my understanding on top of that was that because of the PSPs, this is what we can do. And we would be going and in a way doing a phone tree without a phone, where you would knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, just a heads up, like if they don't have one, this is going on, and then they would pass it on so that more people would find out about it also. Is that correct, Chief?
Absolutely. And I think it's helpful to understand as many sirens that we rely on, sometimes sirens aren't maintained or sirens can fail. So, you know, while we want to rely on those systems and maintain those systems the best we can, sometimes fiscal realities and or equipment malfunctions take place. And so again, for me, I look at these as redundancies. And I think the more redundancies we put in play, the better protected we are.
Very good. Okay. Anything else from the public?
No, I think, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I guess my concern is that I envision the 90-year-old grandma wakes up confused in the middle of the night to the sound of a radio, or maybe she hasn't plugged it in. You know, the most vulnerable people are going to be the ones that can't handle what you're offering them, whereas a bell, a whistle, you know, a sounding alarm is going to be something that everyone would, you know, respond to very quickly. But that's another discussion. We don't have to discuss this tonight.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Jeff, if you don't mind, if I could, keeping in mind that all of this is actually being kind of guided and I don't want to say driven, but thoroughly researched through the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, which is countywide, consists of almost every town, every agency, every emergency services district. So it's being looked at, you know, in terms of a best practice at a countywide level for consistency, so that all alerts across the county mean the same thing, which right now they don't. So this is part of the study. And the main reason I bring that up, and it doesn't affect some of our outgoing board members in terms of their role on the board. Director Mark Brown of the MWPA has reached out. He does want to come and present and introduce himself to the board. And we're going to do that shortly into the new calendar year. So he will actually join one of these meetings and speak on behalf of the MWPA at a future date.
Thank you, Eric. And Chief, thank you for your usual very thorough report. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. And there are no further comments from the public. Okay, next Fire Commission meeting, December 1st, 2020. Okay, now we'll move on to Park and Rec matters. Item H1, draft minutes of the Park and Rec Commission meeting of September 22nd?
No,
It was October 27th.
did
Okay.
I not? Did I?
That's all right. October 27th, I guess.
Yes, no, it's right on there. So October
Yeah.
27th. Yeah, that was the date of the meeting.
Yep. Any questions or comments from the board? Nothing? Okay. Any comment from the public? None. Okay. We'll move on. Item H3, P&R Maintenance Activity Report. Oh, wait a minute. We have appointment of Park and Rec Commissioners as well. Sorry, H2, which will definitely require a vote. Eric, would you like to present that?
Sure. So much similar to the Fire Commission. In this case, we have 2 regular commissioner seats that are becoming available, 1 alternate commissioner seat that can also be appointed for a 2-year term. So those are all 2-year terms. Additionally, we have vacant commissioner seats with terms that are going to expire at the end of this calendar year. You can see the list of the people as well as the letters that they submitted requesting appointment. One is Ann Shawsome, another is John Toon, both of whom are currently on the commission seeking reappointment. And then another member of the community, a gentleman named Ian Fine, has also applied to join the commission, which is great. Staff recommendation is to appoint all 3 to the commission and designating which applicants will serve 2-year terms and which will be appointed to the vacant seat for a 1-year term, keeping in mind that at the end of that term, they can always reapply for a full 2-year seat, assuming at that point in time.
Very good. Anyone on the board have a question or a comment or a motion? Isabella.
Eric, isn't Commissioner Shasam one of the incoming new board members?
No,
Yeah, and it's not, no.
And is not?
no.
Oh, okay. Well,
You
in
just
this
muted
case,
yourself.
I would like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve. We have 2
You have 2 2-year
regulars.
terms and one 1-year term in terms of regular seats. It doesn't,
Right.
I wouldn't, you're not going to fill the alternate seat because we have vacant regular seats.
Right. So therefore, I would like to reappoint Commissioner I'm sorry, Shasam, yes, of course, and Commissioner Tune for 2-year term, and welcome Mr. Ian Fain as a commissioner for Fine. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with pronunciation.
Okay.
So Commissioner Ian Fine to a 1-year position.
I'll second that.
Okay. As per usual, we have a motion from Director Perry and a second from Director Oyserman to appoint the returning commissioners to the 2-year terms and the incoming new commissioner to a 1-year term. Any further conversation? Nothing from the board? Okay. Members of the public?
1 second.
Yes, Stephen.
Yes. I'm glad we have 3 commissioners, but I'd love to see 5 commissioners. And I think this is another problem with the outreach. We really need more people involved in in the management of our community, especially with our beautiful open space. I would recommend that that you do the board thinks about doing additional outreach and also having an open space plan. What are we going to do to improve our trails, reduce fire risk and erosion, and also see how it can be a better recreational resource for our community. I really feel that we focused way too much on the community center and activities around Marinwood Park, where we really have so much more to offer our public. So just a food for thought, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Is anybody else from the public interested in commenting? It doesn't look like it.
No.
If there's nothing else from the board, Tiffany, if you could poll the board.
Sure. Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
I
Director Oysterman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
and Director Shea. Hey, Bill. Director Shea,
Aye.
thank you.
Excellent. Okay, that's unanimous. Ann and John are reappointed to the 2-year term, and incoming Ian Fine to the 1-year term. All right. Moving on to item H3, Park and Rec Maintenance Activity Report. Luke?
Thank you, Jeff. Hello,
At long last.
At long last. Yeah, thank you. On October 30th, in lieu of our normal Halloween Harvest Festival, which we were not able to put on for obvious reasons this year, the Recreation Department put on a Halloween trick-or-treat drive-through, which I know a number of other places have been trying out this year, and which was a huge success. We decorated, the staff decorated cars, and we dressed up, and for a few hours, or a couple hours on Friday, members of the community could drive through and pick up, kind of do a drive-through trick-or-treat. We had some music playing, and we weren't sure what the turnout was going to be, but we ended up being completely busy the whole time. Thankfully, we didn't cause any major traffic incident, which I was slightly worried about at one point. But yeah, it was great to see all these cars come through, kids and parents in costumes, and we were able to give them a little bit of a socially distant trick-or-treating experience. By the end of the night, we handed out candy and some activity trick-or-treat bags to just over 400 kids, not 400 cars, but 400 individual kids, and was busy from start to finish. So that was a super fun event, and people were really appreciative to be able to have something to do on Halloween under the current circumstances. So big thanks to the recreation staff, without whom we wouldn't have been able to do an event like that. So that was a lot of fun. I dressed as a bear, so in case any of you didn't see it. And we actually made the front page of the Marin IJ, both the print version and online. So yeah, we were right at the top with a big story on Halloween events in Marin. So that was a nice surprise, and it was fun to be featured, get a little bit more visibility there for our programs in our department. And then kind of concurrently, that same day was the end of our virtual art show that ran for a couple weeks on our Facebook page, where every day we posted 5 pieces of artwork from the artists that were supposed to be featured in our last couple art shows, with a little blurb about their work of art. And that we had a huge engagement on Facebook from that event. There was a huge positive response, and people were really appreciative. And I think the artists were really appreciative to have a platform to show off some of the artwork they'd made specifically for our event. So after about a year, we finally get to put these artworks on display. So I want to thank Susan Press for organizing that, and Carolyn Sullivan for taking care of uploading and making sure everything made it to the Facebook page. And we look forward to hopefully our next in-person event, but maybe virtual in the next season. So we'll see what happens. And then one last event that we were able to do was a fun service project, partnering with the Las Colinas Lions Club to carve pumpkins for PDS, which is People with Disabilities Succeeding, which is a local program for people with disabilities that we have worked with for decades at Marinwood. Different subgroups from that organization have come and used our pool. They come to our park multiple days a week to get exercise and fresh air. And one of the members of that group is our very own Guy Dewars, who has been employed here for just about a decade, working part-time doing cleanup, janitorial work for us, and has been a great friend of Marinwood for most of his life. And so it was fun for us we had some of our part-time staff come in and carve pumpkins that were donated by the Lions Club, and then the Lions Club delivered the carved pumpkins. And so that was a really fun way to kind of do a little bit of a service project and bring some Halloween cheer to that group who's been cooped up for a lot of the COVID season and not able to get out and do some of their normal activities. So I want to thank the Lions for inviting us to participate in that, and yeah, hopefully they enjoyed that. We're not sure exactly what we're going to do for our normal wintertime event. Normally we do our Winterfest open house, but we will be doing something different in lieu of that. Staff are working on a few things, and we'll be announcing that in the coming days, and with some emails and on our website and some banners. So there will be some events the rec staff will be putting on this winter, but you know, details are still coming for that. We've got a lot of classes and programs still running. I think we talked about them last month, but we've been utilizing our outdoor space with a bunch of new programs, with sports camps, a golf program for kids, a music program for children, all utilizing the park every day. So it's been really fun to see the park just hustling and bustling with kids and families for, you know, for the first time in a little while. And that's been great. And we're now able to start offering some indoor programming, and we've got some programs starting this week, including jazzercise. And we'll be having some dance classes starting in the near future. So the staff have been hard at work coordinating with instructors, making sure everyone understands the guidelines, and getting all the protocols in place to continue to open up the community center to some more of these programs besides preschool and our after school program, which we've been running all fall. Pool closed last Friday. After our short season of lap swim and swim team, and then, you know, using the pool for the summer camps. And we're very pleased to be able to have the pool open in some capacity in spite of all of the challenges that this season presented. I just want to thank Stephanie and her staff for adapting so well and being able to make that possible, and have the pool be a safe place for the people that were able to come and utilize it. So, and we turned off the heaters just in time for the cold spell. So I'm glad to not be heating the pool right now. So that's the helpful thing. Moving on to the parks maintenance side of things. We've had a lot of progress on the new parks maintenance facility project this past couple weeks. A lot of you, I'm sure, have noticed the little workspace that's been erected on the north end of the park. That'll be where the parks maintenance staff will be working through the duration of the demolition and construction of the new facility. We have two 40-foot cargo containers, a small mobile office set up, and it's all been fenced in with all of the equipment and vehicles that our staff use. So it's been a big process moving everything over there, getting all that set up and organized, and there's still some work to be done, but we're completely moved out of the old space, and it is ready for demolition at this point, which will be starting on Monday, I believe. And so that's been a big task. It's not an ideal workspace. The staff don't have any plumbing. They're going to be using either the community center as needed, or we've got a porta potty out there for them. Limited water access, limited electricity, limited lighting, and so it's less than ideal for working through the winter, especially if we get any rain. But staff have good attitudes, and they're making the most of it, and we're creating a space that's as functional as possible to keep up with the maintenance of the parks and the buildings during this project. Power should be up and running in the next week or so, as we've been working with PG&E, DC Electric, and the county to coordinate moving the meter and getting wires run to the new mobile office. So once that's up and running, we'll sort of be fully functional finally for the staff. So that's been a big to-do this last few weeks, and we're very grateful to be pretty much ready to go for this next season. We had some erosion damage at the pool this last week on October 29th. Due to some of the erosion at the creek, part of the cliff just outside the top pool fell down and took out a chunk of our fence and a chunk of our concrete, and damaged some of our irrigation. Thankfully, the damage to the deck was minimal, and the pool itself wasn't affected, but the staff were able to get the irrigation repaired quickly, and they're working on fixing the fence and getting that all repaired. But we did lose a big chunk of earth, and erosion continues to be an issue around the pool complex, and something that we definitely want to continue to look at and mitigate. So thankfully it happened while we were all here, and we were able to get on it right away, but that's something that we'll continue to be looking at and monitoring. And I've listed a bunch of projects coming up that we'll be working on, but we'll be working around the community center to level the patio and repair some things, and update some landscaping around the tennis courts. But I'll stop there and not get too long-winded. Are there any questions?
Maybe not question, but comment. Given the erosion damage, I would advise, and I'm sure you have it on your radar, to really develop a proactive plan to deal with the erosion issue around the pool, given the fact that it's such a pricey infrastructure, a piece of infrastructure we have, and also a source of revenue for us and fun for the community. So it will be critical to save the property around the pool. And I know we'll have to redo the Todd pool eventually because of the zero entry issue. So as soon as we touch the deck, we'll have to, bite the bullet and redo the Todd pool. But yeah, I think preserving this area is critical.
Absolutely, and fully agree. And we have worked with some of the members of the straw program and getting some guidance on plantings that can be done in the area to shore up the creek, as well as being to look at some other agencies and forming a group that we can kind of continue to look at possible repairs and whatever we can do to mitigate further erosion there. So, but I fully agree.
I have a quick question. It's sort of an off-the-wall question, but I mean, every time we lose a part of the creek, cliff or whatever you want to call it, creek bed, that perimeter becomes the new, edge of the creek. Is there any possibility of moving back and starting to do some sort of terracing situation to protect the pool, without getting into the whole, compliance issues with what you can do next to a creek? I just, it's pretty close to the edge, isn't it, right now?
Yeah, certain aspects of the facility are dangerously close to the edge, or a little too close for comfort. I don't think they were that close back when the facility was built. I just think we've lost a lot of land over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a tricky spot because of how close it is to the creek, in terms of what can be done, and we'll need to explore those options. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head in terms of anything that can be done that wouldn't involve getting some permissions and bringing in some
Right.
some bodies.
Yeah. Now, this zero entry pool, is this going to sit in the same exact footprint as the existing pool?
Oh, I would say definitely not. We would want to move the pool much farther away from the edge.
Okay, that's what I was hoping to hear. Good. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else on the board have any questions for Lou?
I just wanted to commend you guys on an awesome summer season, pool season, especially to Stephanie and you guys figuring out how to get the lap swimmers in there and being able to open it up for the Water Devils. I know that the kids who did manage to participate in that, because it was a very limited program, loved it. And being able to offer what you can is pretty amazing without any super spreader events. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. I
And
appreciate that.
we're making a little bit of money.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful summer given the circumstances, and the staff should be commended. I'm sure you've passed that along already without having to be prompted. But wonderful job, and thank you so much for your leadership.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
You bet. Anything else from the board? Sivan, do you have something?
No, I was just pointing towards the attendees public thing, which you can't see. So there's no point of me doing any hand motions. Sorry.
Oh, no, I see that there's somebody from the public that would like to speak, and I guess we're ready for them. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi. Thanks for the report, Luke. I guess I'll just go down in the same order that you have presented your information. First of all, thanks for doing what you could do this summer. I think it was important to many people. Unfortunately, it was too expensive for my blood. I didn't get to swim this summer, but that's okay. I took up walking. So, but hopefully we'll get on track next year. I certainly think we should be able to do that. But thank you very much for what you did. As far as the park maintenance facility, I spoke to you, I spoke to Eric, and I guess I want to speak to the board now. I'm really concerned about access to our complete park during the construction and demolition phase. I'd like to see at least a wheelchairs with access path, which I guess would be about 6 feet, to circumvent, to connect our park so we can walk in our park. As I pointed out, you're not welcome to walk on Miller Creek schoolyard during the day. And so if the plan is to just simply make that area inaccessible, that's really going to impact a lot of users of the park. I know there's safety concerns, but I think you can do it with proper planning and proper will, and it's very, very important. You know, once again, I bring this up, and Linda's brought it up for the last several years, I guess, and that is the access to the park, that steep access that needs to be graded. It's a very small project. I don't know what the resistance is on your part. Maybe you have to be sued. Maybe the district has to be sued for, you know, a disability type action. I don't know, but I'm pretty ticked off that you guys, you know, give it lip service that you want to improve the park, and you really do ignore a large section of the public. So there's that issue. Now, as far as the pool is concerned, that's a big capital expense, which I have heard that we're having a La Nina this year. We're actually in rainy season now, but we may lose a lot more land this winter. And I would recommend that you look, if you're not doing it now, look for measures that can protect that hillside during a very wet winter, because that's what we may be facing. It's unfortunate that this problem that we've known about for years isn't part of the planning process, but apparently the board has other priorities. So I guess we may get caught with our pants down here, and that would be very unfortunate. So let's plan ahead.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Other members of the public? Okay. Luke, anything else to add?
Nope, that's it.
Luke, thank you very much for your report and all the work this summer and beyond.
Thank you.
Okay, next Park and Rec Commission meeting, November 24th. Board member items of interest or requests for future agenda items. Anybody have anything? Bill or Siobhan, anything?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Just an update on what kind of measures we can do to shore up the creek bed and everything so that we don't lose any pool.
Sure. Yeah, I think that has everyone's attention. It's interesting. When we had the erosion next to the pool house, how far did all of the, how far up the creek did they look? Did they just look in back of the pool house, or did they go up where the top pool was and make any recommendations then, or they didn't get there?
At that point in time, we had them come in to do boring samples, and they did the samples at that area where the hill was receding slightly, and they pulled back a little bit and actually discovered pretty solid bedrock at not too deep of an area. If you recall, a few years ago, we proposed a full-length creek study that was not approved to be included in the budget. That would have been done by a woman named Rachel Kamen, who is a hydrologist who works for a firm that knows a lot about these types of things. So to answer your question, no, they didn't look farther up. They looked at the area of concern at that point in time and made some recommendations, but also didn't have any recommendations or didn't feel things like retaining walls or piers or anything like that were needed at that time due to the boring samples showing significant bedrock.
Got it. Okay. All right. Understood. So looking at our entire pool facility vis-a-vis the creek bed certainly should be in our future. Appreciate all the efforts that have gone by so far, but there's some more work to do, obviously. Okay.
I would just reiterate, Jeff, before you move on this, again, with you especially outgoing, Bill Shea will assume the presidency when your term is officially over. And then just to be very clear, the outgoing board members' terms don't actually end until I believe it's either December 4th or December 5th. Even though this is your last regularly scheduled meeting, you're still on the board until the 5th, which is when the new boards will become effective, and their first meeting will be on the 8th.
On the 8th, okay. All right, and then at any point after that and up until the beginning of next year, we all have some paperwork to do.
Yeah, I'll follow up with all of that. You'll need to file leaving office form 700s,
Yeah.
but you don't need to do that until the beginning of the new year.
Understood. Okay. All right. Okay.
Public.
So I guess that makes Bill Shea our president-elect for the time being.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not conceding. I got you.
Well, but I'm going to require you wearing a mask from now on.
Okay. Very good. Okay, members of the public, items for future agendas.
1 second.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, Bill and Savan, I'd like you to assemble some discussion or maybe even a group to look at the future of our open space and park policy concerning open space. As I keep saying, it is one of the greatest assets that we have in the community. And unfortunately, it doesn't get nearly the kind of attention that it does deserve. That and also accessibility. We can broaden the service to the public by, finding out what older people want to do. And, I just feel like we're so focused on school children that we really miss the full community. So that's what I'd like. I'm requesting a discussion about open space.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. If there are no other items, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion.
So moved.
Leah,
Yeah, Leah on that one.
you made it in there. Good for you. All right, and Savannah second. Tiffany, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed the second.
I'll second. I started
Yeah.
to say, but I'll second. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
and Director Shea.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good, everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance. Bill and Saban, good luck.
Thank you.
Wish you the best. And give my best to your new board members.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll be checking in on occasion.
We'll be.
I
talking
expect you to
you
attend
eventually.
at least once a month.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks again,
Good
Jeff and
night.
Isabella
Thanks,
and Leah
everyone.
especially. Thank you guys. It's been an honor.
You bet. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.